The wedding was simple. Plastic chairs, a cheap cake, an old camera recording the day. It looked like the kind of day we'd been working toward for a long time. But from the start, something felt off. The words didn't land right. The looks were just a little too distant. And the longer the day went on, the more I started to feel like I wasn't the center of it. I just didn't know why yet. We had 40 white plastic chairs, 2 folding tables from my uncle's garage, and a Bluetooth speaker that only worked if you leaned it against the wall just right. The cake was from a grocery store. The flowers were fake, bought in bulk and wrapped with actual duct tape underneath. Half of the tablecloths didn't match. And still, when I looked at her that morning, hair curled up with 100 bobby pins, adjusting the sleeves of the second-hand dress she found for $60 online, I thought, yeah, this is real. We'd been planning this for over a year. Not a Pinterest wedding. Not something glossy and scripted. Just a gathering in a rented rec hall behind the church, food from the local deli, and enough folding chairs to seat our closest people. We couldn't afford more. And we didn't need more. Or so I thought. We set everything up ourselves. No planner, no photographer, though the neighbor, Joe, offered to film a little something on his old camcorder. He said he'd done a few weddings before, and we figured, hey, free is free. He came in with 2 backup batteries and a bag of tapes like it was still 2003. I remember standing outside the hall at 10 a.m., tying balloons to a railing that kept popping loose, thinking, this is good enough. She wanted soft blue and ivory colors. The streamers looked more like baby shower leftovers, but they did the job. Guests started arriving around 11. Friends from her shift at the diner, my uncle from the plant, a handful of people from her church group. A lot of handshakes, a lot of, it's about time, comments. The kind of wedding where people bring envelopes with cash and tell you, it's not much, but it'll help. My best man was my cousin Evan. He showed up late, shirt wrinkled, still smelling like his truck. You look nervous, he said. I'm fine. You always say that when you're not. At 12:20, the music started, or tried to. The speaker cut out twice before settling. Her cousin restarted the playlist on his phone. The first song skipped halfway in. No one seemed to care. And then she walked in. There's no other way to say it, she looked beautiful. Not because the dress was perfect or the lighting was great, but because she looked sure. That kind of calm you only get from someone who's already been through a lot and made her choice anyway. She smiled at me. And I smiled back. But in the back of my mind, something felt off. Not big. Just a little disconnect. Some of the people on her side of the aisle I didn't recognize. At all. Not even from photos or the engagement party. One older guy gave her a small nod and a smile like they had history. I didn't have time to dwell on it. The ceremony was short. Simple vows. No readings. We said what we rehearsed. People clapped. Someone's baby started crying right after the kiss. We moved inside for food. Sandwich trays, plastic plates, cheap soda. A couple of friends made speeches. My cousin tried to crack a joke that didn't land. She laughed louder than anyone. I sat down next to her during lunch. She was texting someone under the table. I didn't say anything. Then Joe, the neighbor with the camera, tapped her shoulder. Need to get a couple more shots of you, he said. We missed the bouquet toss. She stood up immediately. Let's do it now. I stayed seated, chewing slow. He only filmed her. For a full 10 minutes. And for the first time that day, I stopped feeling like the groom. And started feeling like a prop. Joe kept filming. I watched him through the window while I helped Evan stack paper plates near the trash bins. The guy moved like he was doing a documentary on her, not a wedding. Tight shots, slow pans, always focusing just on her face. He didn't once turn the camera toward me. Not even for a wide. 10 minutes turned to 15. Eventually I stepped outside. They were standing by the tree line behind the hall. She had her shoes off, barefoot in the grass. He was adjusting his lens like he'd done this 100 times before. She wasn't smiling anymore, not the wedding smile, at least. It was something quieter. Smaller. You guys good? I asked. She looked up, startled. Then smiled too fast. Just finishing up some shots, she said. Joe nodded at me. You want in some of these? No, I said. Just wondering when I get my wife back. She laughed and came over. I held the door open for her. Back inside, the energy felt different. A little deflated. Some people had already started to leave. One of the food trays was empty and someone had spilled lemonade across a stack of unopened paper napkins. The music was skipping again. Nobody noticed. She sat next to me and wiped something off her arm. Grass maybe. You okay? I asked. Yeah, she said. He just gets in a zone when he's filming. He's harmless. You too close. Joe. He used to help my mom with stuff. Nothing weird. Didn't feel weird at all, I lied. Later, Evan pulled me aside. You know that guy? Joe. Neighbor. He said something to me before the ceremony. Asked if I thought you'd go through with it. What? Evan shrugged. Could have been a joke. But didn't sound like one. I looked over at Joe. He was standing in the corner now, sipping from a paper cup, watching her dance with one of her coworkers. I asked Evan, he say anything else? No. Just that. I nodded. Filed it away. At 3:40, we did the cake. No speeches. Just a plastic knife and a grocery sheet cake with our names written in green icing. She fed me a bite. I smiled. Cameras flashed. Joe filmed. Afterward, I went out to the parking lot to get some air. That's when I saw the man in the brown jacket. He was leaning against a gray sedan. Not smoking, not on his phone. Just, watching. He wasn't dressed like a guest. And he wasn't one of mine. When he noticed me looking, he got in the car and drove off. No plates. When I walked back in, Joe was gone. I found her near the gift table, folding envelopes into her purse. You seen Joe? I asked. He had to leave, she said. Said he'd drop the footage by later. Okay. She zipped her purse. I thought about asking what was in the envelopes. But I didn't. Because a part of me already knew, I'd been saying this is good enough all day. And maybe she'd heard that in a way I hadn't meant. We started saying goodbye to guests around 5. Most had been in folding chairs since noon. Nobody was dressed fancy. No valet, no lights, just sunset and tired smiles. People hugged her longer than they hugged me. A few said things I didn't understand. One woman from her side grabbed her hands and whispered, "You did it. You actually did it." Another said, "Third time's the charm, huh?" I blinked when I heard that. Thought I misheard. I asked her about it later. She was talking about the dress, she said. But I wasn't convinced. We stayed behind to help clean up. No crew, just us and Evan stacking chairs, dumping trash, scraping leftover coleslaw into plastic bins. She disappeared for a bit, said she needed to call her cousin. I stayed and wiped tables. When she came back, she smelled like a different perfume. One I didn't recognize. Joe never returned with the footage. Evan left around 6, offered me a look I couldn't read. He didn't say much, just slapped me on the shoulder and said, "Call me tomorrow if you want to talk." Talk about what? We packed up the last of the decorations and drove home. Our apartment was half empty. We were planning to move into a one-bedroom in a better neighborhood, once the wedding dust settled. She sat in the passenger seat staring out the window. At one point I said, "It went all right, I think." She nodded, but didn't answer. At home, we didn't talk much. She showered first. Then me. We didn't even open the cards. She said she wanted to save the moment. I said fine. She went to bed early. I stayed up, sitting at the kitchen table with a soda and a bunch of half-deflated balloons in a trash bag at my feet. I checked my phone. Nothing from Joe. Then I opened her Instagram. She hadn't posted anything. No stories. No updates. Not even a mention of the day. Strange, considering how much she loved sharing every meal, every new nail polish, every old photo of her cat from 3 years ago. I looked at her older posts. All still there. But the photos of us together, some of them were gone. Not all. Just enough that someone scrolling fast might not think twice. Just enough that I noticed. I went back to my soda. Tried to tell myself I was just tired. But something about the day kept echoing. Not loudly, quietly. In the gaps. In the way people avoided my eyes when they made toasts. In the way she never once said, "my husband." In the way Joe filmed like he already knew which parts mattered, and which didn't. Like he'd seen it all before. And knew how it was going to end. The next morning, I woke up to silence. She was already gone. Left a note on the counter, went for breakfast with Jenna. Be back later. Jenna was her coworker at the diner. I didn't think they were close. I made coffee, opened a few of the wedding envelopes. Most had $20. Some, just cards. One had nothing inside. No name on the envelope. I set that one aside. Around 11:30 a.m., my phone rang. Number I didn't recognize. I answered. Hello. Silence for a beat. Then a voice, male, low, kind of flat. She make you sign yet? I blinked. What? The voice hung up. No name. No clue who it was. I sat at the table with my phone in my hand, replaying that voice in my head. Then I walked over to her bag by the door, the one she'd taken to the hall. Still zipped. I opened it. Inside, some napkins, a few unopened favors, and a flash drive. No label. Just a plain black USB. I plugged it into my laptop. One folder. Inside, a few video files. First one, the ceremony. Shot from behind a row of chairs. Not by Joe. Different angle. No audio. Second file, her, in the mirror, getting ready. Laughing. Talking. Again, not filmed by me. Third file, different location entirely. She was sitting on a bed. Talking to someone off camera. I just need it done, she said. Once the paperwork is through, it's out of my hands. He won't fight it. He thinks it's all love and struggle. Like it's a movie. She laughed. Quiet, like she didn't want to. Then a man's voice, and after. She shrugged. Depends what I get. The clip ended. I just sat there. Didn't know whether to scream or laugh. She came back around 2 p.m. keys jingling, bag slung over her shoulder. Smiling like nothing happened. Hey, she said. You good? I nodded. She walked into the kitchen, started talking about someone's wedding gift, a blender, I think. I asked her, did you give Joe that flash drive? She paused. What flash drive? The one I found in your bag. Her tone didn't change. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. She looked at me for a long second, then said, you're overthinking again. I didn't say anything. Because I wasn't overthinking. I just wasn't blind anymore. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her sitting on that bed from the video, calm, almost bored, like she'd rehearsed those lines before. Once the paperwork is through, it's out of my hands. I stared at the ceiling for 2 hours, then got up and went through her stuff. Not in anger. Just quiet, methodical curiosity. If she was hiding something, I wanted to know how deep it went. In the back of her closet, behind a box of old scarves and a dented space heater, I found a shoebox. Inside, documents. Marriage certificate copies. 2 of them. Different names. Both hers. Different states. Dates going back 6 and 9 years. One had a man's name I'd never seen before, Brian Harvell. The other, Thomas Evers. I googled both. Brian was arrested in 2017. Fraud charges. Case never went to trial, lack of evidence. Thomas was harder to trace. No online footprint, no social. But the address on the license was local. The same neighborhood her aunt lived in. The one who didn't show up to the wedding, but sent a card saying, don't let them scare you this time. I took photos of the documents and put the box back where I found it. By breakfast, I had already called out of work. Told my boss I had post-wedding illness. He didn't ask. She sat across from me eating cereal. You barely slept, she said. I'm fine. You sure? I nodded. She smiled. We should go to the courthouse this week. Make everything official. There it was. The paperwork. It hadn't been filed yet, the license was still unsigned. We were married in front of people, sure, but legally. Not until that signature. I asked, you really want to do it that fast? We're already behind, she said. Behind on what? She left for work an hour later. Kissed me on the cheek before walking out. I didn't kiss back. As soon as the door closed, I went to Joe's house. Knocked twice. He opened the door in a hoodie and sweats. Looked like he hadn't slept either. Can we talk? I asked. He nodded. Didn't even ask why. Inside, his place smelled like coffee and cat litter. His laptop was open on the table, paused on video editing software. My wedding footage was on screen, paused on a frame of her smiling, mid-speech. I pointed at it. You give her the original. He didn't answer. I saw the flash drive. Still nothing. Finally, I asked, how long have you known her? He sighed. 3 years. More than me. He nodded. She asked you to film this? Yeah. To make it look real. He didn't say anything, but that was enough. I walked out. Didn't slam the door. Didn't say a word. Because it wasn't about Joe anymore. He was just the last piece. The one that confirmed what I already knew. This was never my wedding. It was her performance. And I was cast as the fool. 2 days later, she came home with a manila envelope. She dropped it on the kitchen table like it was nothing. Inside, the marriage license, pre-filled. Our names, the date, witness line blank. We just need to sign and drop it off, she said. I looked at it like it was a loaded weapon. You already filled it out. Of course. Makes it easier. And the witness? Joe said he'd do it. Of course he did. I stared at the paper, then at her. She was acting normal. Too normal, folding laundry like it was any other Tuesday. Talking about utility bills and maybe repainting the living room. I asked, what's the rush? No rush, she said, still folding. Just tying it up. Making it real. It's already real, isn't it? She paused. Just a second too long. Then, not on paper. That night, I checked my bank account. 2 small test transactions I didn't recognize. Both from a digital service used for identity verification. The kind of thing you'd see when someone tries to connect to your financials. She hadn't asked me about joint anything. We hadn't even talked about money yet. I never gave her my logins. But she had the right last name now. And with that form signed, she'd have access to everything that came next. The next morning, I went to the courthouse myself. Asked for a copy of the pre-filed documents. Told them I needed to verify something. They pulled up a file. Sure enough, someone had submitted a pre-registration form under both our names, using her email and her listed prior marriages. Except, one was missing. She left one of the licenses off the paperwork. The one with the man who ended up arrested. The one I found in her closet. That meant the form she filed was already fraudulent. I asked the clerk, what happens if the license is submitted with false information? She glanced around. If someone reports it before the ceremony's processed, it's voided. And if it's processed, then it becomes a mess. That was the word she used. A mess. I went home, walked into the kitchen, and found the envelope still on the table. She wasn't there. But her phone was. It buzzed just once. Screen lit up. Text from, Tim, do not answer. Did he sign it yet? That was enough. I grabbed the license, took a photo, and sent it to the same clerk I spoke with earlier. Flagged for review. Subject, possible fraud, do not process. Then I deleted the text from her phone, put it back exactly where I found it. That night, she asked, you think we can sign it tomorrow? I smiled and said, sure. Because I wasn't going to raise my voice. I wasn't going to accuse her. I was just going to wait. Let her believe I was falling in line. And the next time she blinked, I'd be gone. With every piece of proof she thought I'd never notice. She picked Saturday. Said it, felt more official. We'd drive to the courthouse, submit the form, maybe grab lunch after. Keep it simple. That morning, I got up early. Made coffee. Packed a bag. One change of clothes, flash drive with all the documents, screenshots, bank logs, and the photos of her 2 past marriage certificates. Left everything else. She was still asleep when I left. I didn't slam the door. Just locked it behind me. I drove 2 towns over, dropped the flash drive at the county office with a written statement. I didn't need to press charges, I just wanted the marriage stopped, voided before it went through. I knew they'd find the discrepancies. The duplicate name. The concealed history. The flagged bank access. That was enough. I turned off my phone. By noon, she'd called me 8 times. By 1, I got a message from Evan. She's calling everyone. Says you ran. I hadn't run. I had simply stepped out of the part she'd written for me. A few hours later, she left me a voicemail. Calm. Too calm. Whatever this is, we can fix it. Let's just talk. There was no panic in her voice. Just management. She didn't sound heartbroken. She sounded inconvenienced. Like her plan had hit a snag and she just needed to patch it. I saved the message. Didn't respond. By Monday, I got an email from the clerk. Form rejected. License flagged. Follow-up opened. I sent a quiet thank you back. Told them I wouldn't be pursuing further legal action, for now. A week later, I heard through Evan that she moved out of the apartment. Left everything behind. Said she was taking time to figure things out. I knew what that meant. The plan fell apart. The timeline collapsed. She wasn't in love. She was in paperwork. A clean signature, a smooth deposit, and an exit strategy. That strategy was gone now. And so was I. I didn't go back. Not to the apartment, not to her, not to the version of myself who thought he was starting a life. I let it all fall behind like a set being torn down after the final act. She tried once more, a letter this time. Handwritten. Said she never meant to hurt me, that she just needed something to go right for once. But even her apology felt structured. Like a last page in a script she'd been rehearsing for years. I didn't respond. Instead, I printed one photo, a still from Joe's footage that I recovered later. She's standing in the field behind the hall, barefoot, dress wrinkled, talking to him like I didn't exist. I keep it in a drawer. Not out of anger. Just as a reminder. That people don't always lie with words. Sometimes, they lie by what they leave out. As for Joe, I left him a note too. Slipped it under his door, no signature. Thanks for the footage. I'm not mad. You were just the wrong kind of loyal. I never saw him again. I hear she moved out of state. Changed numbers. Maybe even tried the same plan again somewhere else. But I don't follow. I don't track. I don't chase. I did what she didn't expect. I noticed. And then I ended it before she could benefit. Now, I live quiet. Not bitter. Not broken. Just, done. I see weddings sometimes. Pass them at parks or outside courthouses. People laughing, crying, saying, forever, like it's just a word. And I don't get angry. I just keep walking. Because she thought I wouldn't pay attention. But I did. And the one thing she'll never fake again, is someone who was actually watching.